Guys, how y'all doing on this Sunday afternoon? This is the Club of the Man 1993, and yes, I did finally find a decent PNG image of Miss Toni Storm with the AEW Women's World Title. So I do like this little update I have made, of course, to the graphic. Of course, the SmackDown graphic will be updated as well based on the results of Extreme Rules, as well as that has been changed back to Rowdy Ronda Rousey for that. Of course, Tyler's favorite wrestler, aka Horseface. Even though, buddy, you are asking to get your butt kicked if you ever meet her in person. But, you know, that'll be when we get to the SmackDown review later on today. As that, of course, a lot of content I'm going to try to punch out today. It was a super duper busy week this past week. Didn't get to really do much content. Haven't really played any video games since last Sunday when I started working on another part of my Roller Coaster Tycoon Let's Play. So I have a lot that I want to try to do today. I was trying to do it last night, but then last night when I had a chance just to sit down at 7 o'clock at night, I was out like a light. I would wake up off and on, but I just did not feel like doing anything. But we're back, and we're, of course, going to start talking about AEW Dynamite from the October 12th, 2022 edition, and that took place in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, which had a very awesome crowd. Very lively crowd. A lot of great pops, a lot of great reactions. We had a debut of a new member of our broadcast team, and also the return of someone who is now back to being the perfect 10. So, I will say, other than, I think it was the first half of the second hour, other than that portion, I still enjoyed the show. There was a lot of things that second, like the first half of that second hour that I just was not a fan of, that I just wasn't, and I wasn't too crazy about. I have a little bit of ranting to do. A little bit. Especially what happened with that Ring of Honor World Title match and the direction that story is going as well. And of course a few repetitive things I'm starting to notice, but there was still plenty of things that I still enjoyed about this show. So take away all the drama, take away the whole media scrum, take away this, and that, take away this whole war that's going on in the wrestling industry right now with WWE and AEW. Take it all away. I want to enjoy this show. If it's enjoyable, it's still enjoyable for me. If you don't like it, I'm sorry. So we're going to just roll in and talk about it. We got Tyler in a live chat. Hope we didn't hear me saying stuff about Horseface. He gave the show a C. We also have JR saying, what do you think about Wade Barrett being on SmackDown as commentary on commentary? Him being on commentary is not bad. You know, I don't mind him at all. He's not too bad. I mean, I heard some of his material in NXT. I'm wondering if he's ever going to get back in the ring or not. But that's neither here or there to say. But I definitely do miss Pat McAfee. But I'm okay with Wade Barrett on commentary. And when do I see Malachi Black return to AEW? Honestly, I'd say maybe not till next year. If he does need like the time to heal, the time to, like regain focus and whatnot, I would say just give the rest of the year off, in my opinion. But thank you guys as always for your stuff in the live chat. And yeah, Tyler did just, advise his thoughts on Horseface. Anyways, but we're going to get rolling. We're going to get talking about this episode of Dynamite. That again took place in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Opened up to a very lively crowd. And the newest member of the AEW roster and their broadcast team, formerly known as Renee Young. We've got the wife of AEW World Champion Jon Moxley, Renee Paquette, who came out, massive pop, great reaction, looking lovely as always. I've always been a huge fan of Renee. I felt bad. She got a lot of, bit like a bad rep with her commentary when she did commentary for Raw. Her, oh my God! Like all she would literally say. But again, remember this. We had Vince McMahon in the ear. Like, now that Triple H is in the ear now, we got Michael Cole doing better on commentary. Yes, some of the others need to do a little bit better as well, but Renee is definitely one of the best interviewers that the in the industry today right now, and it is good to see her finally make her way over to AEW. And and everything too is I'm hoping to God they do the best they can to kind of separate, her personal life from her professional life. Because how many times did they try to bring in her personal life with her and Jon Moxley, of course, in real life, being married, have a kid now, of course. And to me, it created a lot of awkward storytelling in WWE. Especially whenever when Ambrose had turned heel, and she was like, "Oh, I have no clue what's going on." It was just like putting her on the spot, and it was just so bad. So that's just one thing I'm hoping AEW does, is they do the best they can to still separate those two lives from colliding with each other. It's just my opinion. But anyways, so she gets a great reaction, and of course she gets a little emotional too. And then she introduces Toronto's own Christian Cage, who comes out and says it feels bad to be back in great to be back in Toronto as the face of not only the state of Toronto but the country of Canada. He's guaranteeing a victory tonight for Luchasaurus, his right hand of destruction. So then we get a match with former tag team partners and best friends, Jungle Boy, Jack Perry, and Luchasaurus. I'm pretty sure this is the first of a couple series of matches they are going to have down the line. Probably going to build to a match at Full Gear, which would be a nice addition, especially if they do as good as they did in this match too. But I think this is definitely a good way to give Jungle Boy something a little bit more to do, since Christian Cage is in fact injured right now. Although I've heard he's recovering better than they thought he would. So some think he may be ready to get back in the ring by the beginning of the year. And if that's the case, then we could see the rematch and probably the big blow-off match between Jungle Boy and Christian Cage maybe at Revolution next year. But I think for Full Gear, we're building towards Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus, which, again, was a really good match. Excellent chemistry. You can tell once again, anytime good friends in real life work together, they do see them put on some really good matches. There was a point in this match, of course, where Jungle Boy had worked on the right arm of Luchasaurus pretty well. And I think there was a spot where I think Luchasaurus had to hit the choke slam with his left hand instead of his right hand, since that got worked on. But it wasn't enough to keep Jungle Boy down, which again, it was kind of taking away a weapon for him. We did have some really good spots. So we did have, I think, Luchasaurus, I think, did set up a table for Jungle Boy to go through, but then Jungle was able to reverse a sunset flip powerbomb off the apron that sent a Luchasaurus through the table, which I thought was awesome. Christian Cage, though, of course, did leave commentary. I got the ring market orders, causing more distraction for Jungle Boy. We also got a fireman's carrier, reverse Death Valley driver. Okay, again, that choke slam was not enough, of course, because it was done with the left hand and not the right hand. We also got a crucifix driver, also as well, like a sunset flip, Canadian Destroyer thing that, of course, again, could not keep Luchasaurus down. Jungle Boy also was trying to use the kill switch again to the head of Christian Cage. He wasn't able to get it the first time, but then it got reversed into an electric chair, and then a poisoned Frankensteiner then spiked Luchasaurus, which then, of course, would be able to stun him for Jungle Boy to hit the kill switch again. Well, they fully hit the kill switch, but Luchasaurus still kicked out of it. And then eventually, though, Luchasaurus does get the win with a burning hammer to get the victory. So, put up an excellent fight, I thought, that they had between the two of them. It was very intriguing of a match. And like I said, you could just tell that these two again work very well together as partners and as opponents as well. Again, I'm pretty sure that is though the setup for another match. Again, I'm pretty sure we will get another one-on-one match between these two, maybe with a stipulation, I don't know, at Full Gear. And like I said, it's basically an obstacle to not only get Luchasaurus going as a not as a babyface, as a singles competitor, but also to have this feud further on since Christian Cage is currently hurt. Definitely, though, one of the stronger matches of the show. I definitely enjoyed this. After this, we have... Okay, I know I said I have a little bit of ranting to do, but this was a slight bit of it because it's part of something else we got later on. So we have this segment backstage with Stokely Hathaway and Ethan Page. And Stokely says that they purchased private parties contracts to free them, just like Matt Hardy wanted. And then Matt then challenges him to a match with their contracts on the line tonight. And then Ethan says, I guess they said they're going to have the match go on Friday instead. But he says to let the boys fight their own battles. And challenges Isaiah Cassidy to a match. And if Cassidy wins, they're out of their contracts with the firm. But if they lose, not only do they not get set free, but they also get Matt Hardy's contract as well. Which Matt Hardy accepts, and it gives Cassidy a pep talk. I didn't get to see the results. I don't know if that's what the case would happen or not. But that kind of says so. Because they're all of a sudden... I don't know, it's because everybody's talking about, people wanting to get, out of these rumors that some of these people want to get out of their contracts, go back to WWE. I don't know if it's all true or not, but it's all getting ridiculous. There's a lot of, contract and legalization stories now they've been, doing now with AEW. And it's starting to get a little bit old, that repetitiveness. Especially also, because there was one later on in the show with Smart Mark Sterling and Tony Nese, who I think came out recently and basically said, we told you so about sneaky Swerve Strickland, which Swerve did tease more of a heel turn tonight on, this past week on Dynamite. So we have that. But then we also so then first thing we told you so, but now they're coming out, later on in the show, they came out and now said that the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn can't do the Scissor Me Daddy stuff anymore because they copyrighted it. So now, I guess I don't know if this is like a filler feud for the Acclaimed to have before the most likely rematch between the Acclaimed and Swerve in Our Glory at Full Gear. But why are they using a negative reinforcement, a negative, trend that's going on today though out of a storyline? It's starting to get it's so getting so old for me and so worn down or whatnot. I wasn't a fan really of this contract stuff. Then we have a tag match between the Factory's QT Marshall and Nick Comoroto taking on, they're now calling themselves War Joe, team of Wardlow and Samoa Joe, who got massive pops, and they squashed the job in Factory. And afterwards, though, Joe goes to grab QT Marshall because Joe had hit the Coquina clutch on Nick Comoroto to get the win, but afterwards, Samoa Joe grabs QT Marshall and throws him to Wardlow for the Powerbomb Symphony. But then Prince Nana and the Embassy from Ring of Honor come out and then says, hey, take a look at War Joe. They stuck their nose in the Embassy's business, and Brian Cage then says nobody wants to see Wardlow powerbomb QT Marshall. And nobody wanted them sticking their nose in the Embassy's business when they attacked FTR last week. Are FTR even here? If it was up to them, they wouldn't even be allowed in Canada. Sure enough, not the case, as FTR did come out. Dax Harwood gets drowned out by the crowd chanting for FTR, but says there's 3 of them, and he can't ask War Joe to work Friday too. So they want a match on Friday against Brian Cage and the Embassy. So they got another partner, just to, give War Joe a break. But he is an Ontario native. And also, he's the pinnacle of professional wrestling. But then they ask, what time does Rampage start on Fridays? Which is at 10. And that is a perfect 10. And I'm like, wait a minute. Perfect 10's tie. Sean Spears! And sure enough, yes. Sean Spears, for the first time I would say since the MJF and Wardlow feud, comes out, who's also going to be a daddy soon, as him and former WWE superstar Peyton Royce, but now Cassie Lee, had recently announced a few months ago that they're expecting their first child. Congratulations to them, of course. But he came out to a big pop. He's a babyface again, and he's got the perfect 10 gimmick again, which I, of course, love. He goes down to the ring, and then he threw Aaron Solo into the ring for a big rig, and basically, teases that match for Friday. I went on Rampage on Friday. I don't watch Rampage, but hopefully it went good. But yeah, hoping that this does give Sean Spears some room to get a little bit more of a spotlight still, because yeah, I liked it when he came in, but it's just like they definitely cooled down on him. I knew there was one point he was on a roll on Dark. I saw he was 15-2 or something like that. They had him and Tully Blanchard together, but they just really went nowhere with it. So here's me hoping that they still find something for him to do. If not, put him in Ring of Honor. Or we're going to talk about Ring of Honor here in a second also, especially with how much time they've used on Dynamite to more so advertise for Ring of Honor and kind of not make the AEW content feel quite as important. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. We have an interview with Chris Jericho and then Angelo Parker and Matt Menard 2.0, members of the Jericho Appreciation Society, of course. But they're being interviewed backstage. They have a match later on in the show. Well, Jericho has a match later on in the show for the Ring of Honor World title against Bryan Danielson. Angelo Parker says how Bryan Danielson is garbage and made this personal by trying to poach Daniel Garcia and broke up their happy family. Matt Menard says how Garcia is out and says they serve him a giant steaming piece of humble pie. Jericho says how Daniel is family to them, and Danielson forced him to hurt his little brother last week. Garcia has been returning calls or texts, and tonight he's going to be the Lionheart and out-wrestle and out-fight Bryan and leave Toronto the Ring of Honor World Champion. We'll talk about how that went later on in the show. We then, of course, had a match with Swerve Strickland and Daddy Ass Billy Gunn, which, of course, the crowd was super hot for Billy Gunn, and, of course, the Daddy Ass and the "Oh, scissor me, Daddy," as it keeps going on. And, of course, he got, of course, the bigger pops, where Swerve Strickland was getting that heel heat, but Swerve did, though, have to use the ropes to beat Billy Gunn. Again, he's, we haven't seen Keith Lee for a little bit, but, again, they're definitely, writing that proper story with, Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland, where, again, that, Keith Lee is a guy who wants to do things right. Swerve Strickland's, not happening. You gotta have, even though, of course, you're going up against a team that got more over to you, that, again, got the Swerve in our glory, Bastian's glory chant, overpowered, replaced by the scissor me daddy chants. So, again, I just think that, Swerve, is doing the right move by making himself, look like the one who, is going a different tactic. Keith wants to, store honor, even though, once again, the awkward part is still that Billy Gunn did help the Acclaimed win the tag titles at Grand Slam. But still, that story is still, intriguing. And then afterwards, this is where Mark Sterling came out saying that they can't use the scissoring anymore. And again, that's just stupid. But then we have this promo that's backstage. Interesting. MJF was being interviewed backstage. Explain what happened last week when Wheeler Yuta went to shake his hand And then whenever the firm interrupted, MJF like snapped on them, which was strange. Before he was able to start talking, though, Stokely Hathaway came up to crow about them beating Wheeler Yuta. MJF makes like it's all fun and games, but says Daddy has to put Stokely on timeout. He's got 2 strikes. So if you do it again, you're fired. And for job security purposes, he should get his Carlton Banks-ass wardrobe out of his shot. Bye-bye. So he sends away Stokely Hathaway. Again, why all of a sudden is MJF telling you all these heels to F off? But then, of course, he talks about William Regal, the villain. In his world, he's about as villainous as Mary Poppins. They have a dark past, and he's sure Regal doesn't want to be reminded of. And as far as Wheeler Yuta goes, he doesn't have a clue what it's like to be him. And knowing he has no choice but to be the bad guy every morning. He's broken his hand many times, punching his own reflection. You don't like him? Well, he doesn't like himself either. But he has to be the way he is, though, to become world champion. And he will become world champion because he's the man with the plan, the man with the chip, and the man who is a generational talent. So, interesting promo there. Definitely addressing, the weird, actions he's had, the weird tactics he's had, yes, still being heel, but still showing like that softer side with a little bit of a heart. But he's like, I'm screwed. The only way for me to succeed in this business is to do what I've been doing, basically. So it's interesting, especially, of course, if he's, not fully, a part of the firm, unless there's something up his sleeve. But then again, it could be a ruse, like, who knows? But that was interesting. Then we have another good promo. It was hyping up for the AEW World Title match this coming Tuesday on Dynamite. Dynamite's going to be on Tuesday this week instead of Wednesday. And I think rumors have it may be because of the MLB playoffs, I think. I can't remember for sure. But yeah, we're going to be on Tuesday this week for Dynamite. But anyways, Moxley comes out. And he says he's going to be in Toronto after 3 years, which 3 years would mean, well, before the pandemic or even before he left. And he says so much has happened since then. And for much of those 3 years, he's been AEW World Champion. They've come from far and wide, all shapes and styles, to try and knock him down off the mountain, but they ain't walked a mile in his shoes. Being World Champion isn't fun and games, and it ain't easy. And everybody wants something from you. You live every day in physical pain. And sooner or later, you crumble. Some faster than others. The world champion also doesn't have the luxury of being anxious or fear or doubt or hesitation. Being world champion is a dirty job. Dirty job. And you gotta be ruthless and indiscriminate. But goddamn, he loves this job. Which of course then brings out Hangman Adam Page, his opponent next week. And of course, while this is going on, MJF is sitting in the crowd, watching on, holding his chip. Hangman comes out, and he says whatever Mox has to say, he wants him to say it to his face. But actually, he said all last week. And he said that he respects him in the ring and as a person. And that meant a lot to him. He's watched Moxley these 3 years, and he's come to respect who he is in the ring and in person. There have been times in the past 3 years he looked at Mox and seen the kind of man he wanted to be. But that was not the case last week, when Moxley shattered his illusions when he called him a nice kid. Is that what he thinks of him, as a kid? He demands Mox give an answer, and Mox says, "That's exactly what I think of you, kid." He doesn't think Hangman is the same guy that knocked him off a 20-foot ladder a year ago. He doesn't think he has it to pull the trigger. Hangman admits that he may not be the same guy he was last year. He hesitated in May, and it cost him the title. He went for the trios titles with his best friends, and he has to watch them disappear week to week. His old friends have disappeared, and he's left with nothing. Of course, referring to the Young Bucks probably with their suspension. But he's still here because he ain't a kid, he's a man. He's 31 years old, a former World Tag Team Champion, a former World Champion, and he's seen family members lowered into the ground and seen new life brought into the world. He's a husband, a father. He's been beaten down, kept coming back because he's a man. And he punched himself, of course, in the face, of course, during this too. And he's going to do whatever it takes next week to take back the thing he never should have let slip away. He has nothing but a shot and his word. Tuesday, he takes his shot, and tonight he gives his word. His word. His word is that he will be the next AEW champion. And unlike MJF, he wanted to come out here and tell Mox that face-to-face, man-to-man. And of course, Moxley fumes as the Hangman goes to leave, and they make eye contact one more time with a little nod. That's going to be an intriguing match next week. And, of course, in Moxley's hometown as well. Definitely, of course, a dream match for sure between those two. But very nice promo. Very good way to hype up that match for next week. And I do look forward to it on Tuesday night. Well, I'll probably not be able to watch till Wednesday either way. But definitely a really great promo. Alright, then this is where I kind of rant a little bit. So, originally, I thought this match was going to be the main event. Although, I am now glad that what was the main event was, and not this. We have the Ring of Honor World Championship match between the Lionheart, Chris Jericho, the Ocho, of course, the Ring of Honor World Champion. He took on the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson. Again, this is the third match these two have had since they started feuding with each other in AEW. Let's talk about the match itself first. The match itself was fine. These three, minus the finishes to their matches, have still put on solid matches. As you would expect, they are two of the greatest in the world today. Bunch of back and forths. And then towards the end of the match, Jericho shoved Bryan Danielson into the referee. And, of course, the referee goes down from a referee bump. Stereo lariats, and both men were down and out. Chris Jericho then grabs his Ring of Honor World title belt. And he stands ready to use it to his advantage to strike Danielson with the belt to put him out before the referee could catch him. But, of course, as we expected to happen, Daniel Garcia rolled into the ring, who, again, has been, more so teaming up with Bryan lately. Because, of course, the storyline there was, Bryan earned his respect. Bryan endorsed him after that 2 out of 3 falls match, even though he had lost. And, that moment meant a lot to him for his career. And it was teasing a very great babyface turn for Daniel Garcia, who was super over. Super over. The pop he got when he won the Ring of Honor Pure title in his hometown of Buffalo also was absolutely insane. And let me say this beforehand too. Up until that turn, I was still not getting Daniel Garcia. Yeah, he was a decent wrestler, but just as a character, it's like, who is he? I don't know you, and I don't get it. But then, when Garcia hit Jericho, Garcia saved Bryan from getting hit with the belt. He jawed at Jericho. They traded shoves. But as that's going on, Bryan out of nowhere hits the flying knee. But then right after that flying knee, BAM! Daniel Garcia takes his ROH Pure title and he turns on Bryan Danielson, and then Angelo Parker shoves Turner back into the ring, and then Jericho gets over to the cover. 1, 2, 3. Jericho wins. Garcia embraces Jericho, and he is back on track with the with the Jericho Appreciation Society. Afterwards, the Blackpool Combat Club stormed down the ramp to check on Bryan Danielson, and then Wheeler Yuta gets at Daniel's face briefly as he leaves, of course, as well. Why? like I said before, my big problem is before that babyface turn, it seemed like it happened. Now I don't even know what the heck that was now. Like I said, I was not getting Daniel Garcia. Yeah, he was a solid wrestler, but he just didn't stand out to me. He didn't pop out to me. Then they have this thing again where he, gets endorsed by one of his real-life favorites of all time, Bryan Danielson. And seems to tease, wanted to be mentored by him. And Danielson's given him so much respect over the past, 2 or 3 months, however long this is going on for. But it was a story that was making me get behind Daniel Garcia. And now you do this for whatever reason, and now it's like we're back to square one. No development in character. What's the story here? Yes, Bryan may be Garcia's hero, but Jericho was the one who made him who he was. But it was he's going to go back to being just lost in the shuffle, another member of the JAS. That's just not going to stand out to me. Doing this felt like this whole story with Danielson and Garcia felt like a total waste, in my opinion. It really did. And also, the other thing too, they really, again, what's hurting the AEW product also still, as I keep saying, is they are really, really overshadowing it with a lot more Ring of Honor material lately. Honestly, if Ring of Honor is not going to get its own separate show, why not just cancel Rampage and have Ring of Honor have their weekly show on Fridays instead? That way, if you're not Ring of Honor champion, you can still float between the two different shows. If you're not getting TV time with AEW, go to Ring of Honor. They could be the ones that could give you the TV time that you definitely deserve. Because, again, having, I get it, people, think that AEW by itself has too many belts. I'm not going to complain too much. The trio tag titles are different. The All Atlantic title, has had a more of an overseas, around the world type feel thing for me. That's fine, but when you have the actual Ring of Honor championships feel more prestige though than your AEW championships, that is a problem. So again, I'm not sure why they keep overshadowing the AEW stuff with the Ring of Honor material. But again, this stuff with Daniel Garcia and Bryan Danielson just got flushed down the toilet, I felt. Very quickly. It didn't feel like it was the right move to do. Because now, again, this whole storyline felt pointless. What was the point in this? And like I said, too, it just, again, makes Daniel Garcia feel pointless to me. Again, it's right back to where he was before that 2 out of 3 falls with Bryan. Or before the match, the singles match where he did beat Bryan. So that was a disappointment there. Afterwards, then we have Nyla Rose, who has not been around for who knows how long. She apparently on Friday, not this past Friday, but the Friday before at Rampage, just showed up, took the TBS title off of Jade Cargill, didn't even actually win it, and is walking around like she thinks she's the TBS champion. And then Anna Jay challenged her to a match on Friday, and if she beats her, she wants the title. But the title is not relinquished. The title is not Nyla's. It's still Jade's. So I don't know what the hell the point of this is. And plus, too, what's even harder, too, all 3 members of this, Jade Cargill, Nyla Rose, Anna Jay, they're all freaking heels. You really think anybody's going to want to cheer Nyla Rose? No offense, Nyla, I mean, she's great, but I don't think she's someone that could easily connect likably to the fans. Anna Jay just turned heel, and Jade Cargill is too good as a heel to go babyface right now. So why did they do that storyline, which I find that stupid as well. But yeah, and then we have a match with Toni Storm and Hikaru Shida versus Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter. How many more of these women's tag matches are we going to get? Because even these are starting to feel kind of old. But Hikaru Shida wins by pinning Britt Baker. And I guess they're doing a match, I think, on Dynamite this coming week, I think it is, between Toni Storm and Hikaru Shida. Okay, that's fresh. That is different. But these women's tag title matches are starting to definitely, like get repetitive for me too. But then, of course, we had first we had the Butcher the Blade call the Blackpool Combat Club a couple of crumbs and shall fight us at the camera a bunch of times. I guess that's set up for a match with, I think, them and Moxley and Castagnoli on Rampage. And then the main event was an excellent match with Orange Cassidy and Pac. So, I guess Pac has been like healing it up quite a bit lately. He's used like a hammer or something like that as like his bread and butter weapon. I guess he was about to try to use it in this match, but I guess referees like pushed him off from using it. And then Danhausen did appear in the middle of the match and did curse Pac. But it did lead eventually for Orange Cassidy to get the momentum going. He even kicked out of a schoolboy hammer. And then Orange hits the Orange Punch, though. Orange Cassidy, for the first time in his AEW career, wins a title and a singles title. And, of course, the ring is celebrated with a bunch of like orange confetti and the snap zune hug with the new champ, and he's posing with it. Orange Cassidy, though, definitely deserves some type of title. Like, I didn't think he'd be the AEW World Champion yet, but definitely some sort of like a mid-card title. And like the All-Atlantic title is, good for him. And he's definitely gone all around the world. Heck, what if they did a rematch from Forbidden Door with Orange Cassidy and Will Ospreay for the AEW All-Atlantic Championship? That'd be a hell of a match, I think, for sure. But definitely the better choice, though, to go on last. Other than... I'm tired, sorry. Other than the Ring of Honor World Title match, again, that finish just really flopped it for me. But yeah, those couple things, like the whole document legalization stuff was bugging me. The finish to that Ring of Honor World Title match, the stuff of the TBS I think is also kind of dumb also. So that did hurt my grade. But other than that, everything else on the show I thought was still really good, and I gave the show a B. Probably would have been the B+, A- level if it wasn't for those things, but, still, enjoyable stuff on the show. Again, I gave it a B. Nothing really new in the live chat, so I'm going to call it here. I'm hoping to get some more content punched out, and even also hoping to get some, my SmackDown review done with tonight, but other stuff still, I want to get through to do as well on this channel, so we'll go from there and see how it is. So, guys, that is my review of AEW Dynamite. Gave it a B. It took place in Toronto. Awesome crowd and whatnot. Some really great matches. What are your thoughts, though, on this episode of Dynamite? Your thoughts on Daniel Garcia's heel turn? The overusage of the Ring of Honor titles being used on Dynamite as well. And, of course, Orange Cassidy becoming an AEW All-Atlantic Champion. Make sure your thoughts down in the comment section below. Be sure as always to slap a like on the video and subscribe more content to my channel. And follow me on Twitter as well at DemandAirboy93. Until then, guys, I'm catching out. I'll catch you all later. Have a great rest of your day. And peace out, everybody. Yeah, no, I will surprise. There's no escape.